Sebastian and I have been tormenting each other for nearly a decade. He paraded around town with one lover after another, while I clung to most of his fortune, refusing to let go. We both held each other's Achilles' heels, neither willing to show weakness first. But today, I'm ready to divorce him, because I'm dying. I stared at the diagnosis report in my hand for a long time before finally dialing Sebastian's number. Where are you? What's it to you? We're married, yet even asking about each other's whereabouts is seen as an overstep. Come back here, I said, pounding the table. We're getting a divorce. He snorted derisively and hung up. Of course he did. I'd used that line too many times before, mostly just an excuse to see him. He had every right not to believe me. I waited for 2 days, but he didn't come back. Looking at the diagnosis form marking the end of my life, I didn't want to waste another moment. I grabbed my bag and walked out. There was one more way to find Sebastian, and it had always worked. Bang, bang, bang. I knocked on the door with a little force. A delicate young woman appeared before me. Miss Lillian. Her eyes were filled with terror, as if I could tear her to pieces through the door. I rolled my eyes and said, "Hey, tell Sebastian to come home. Tell him I want to divorce him. Make sure he gets the message. Among all his mistresses, I think you have the best chance. Once we're divorced, you might just become Mrs. Sebastian." The delicate young woman's eyes welled up with tears. Miss Lillian, I never thought of that. I sighed and cut her off. Stop trying to manipulate me. Just tell him. If he doesn't come home tomorrow, I'll break down this door and smash your place. Do you think a cheap doorbell can stop me? I didn't feel like wasting my breath on her and turned to leave. If everything goes as planned, I'll see Sebastian tonight. Joyce is his most cherished possession. How could he tolerate me coming to provoke him? As night fell, he stormed up to me, furious. Didn't I tell you not to go looking for Joyce again? I poured myself a glass of red wine and looked at him calmly. What? I went to see her. What can you do about it? He was furious but couldn't do anything to me, so he just said things I didn't want to hear. I don't know what you're trying to achieve. Joyce is already obedient enough. There's no love between us, yet you refuse to divorce me and won't let me have someone I truly care about by my side? Do you want everyone to be as lonely as you are? With a crash, I smashed the glass in my hand. He was right. I was lonely, which is why I had clung to him all these years, even though I knew there was no love left between us. Yes, I'm in hell. How can you go to heaven? I tilted my head and retorted defiantly. But deep down, I felt exhausted. Over the years, every time I saw Sebastian, we were at odds. What was the point? I poured another glass of wine, sat across from him, and placed the divorce agreement in front of him. Sign it. Even if I have to go to hell, I don't want to see you there. We hated each other in life, don't come bother me in death. Sebastian opened the divorce agreement and began reading it. I looked at him through the glass of my wine glass. He was still handsome, with thick eyebrows, big eyes, a high nose, and thin lips. Oh, no wonder he was so heartless. Why is life so unfair? Why does he remain so handsome after all these years? What do you want now? He glared at me, his eyes filled with suspicion. I sneered. I only want this house. Everything else is yours. I'm giving up all our joint assets. Can't you see that? Perhaps because I had asked for too much in the past, he felt something was off now that I was suddenly being so decisive. This house was our wedding home. Though it's old and wouldn't fetch much money, I simply couldn't bear the thought of another woman living here with him. I'm a jealous person, I can't stand seeing him happy with someone else. Besides, even if it's not worth much, we can buy a better plot of land for a grave. Trading our home and life for a grave in death, I came here with nothing and will leave with nothing, at least I'll be at peace. Sebastian carefully reviewed the agreement multiple times before finally saying, I'll have my lawyer draft a new one. The house is yours, and I'll give you an additional 10 million. We'll be completely even. I raised an eyebrow. He was being generous, using 10 million to buy our 10 years of love. Your lawyer? You don't trust your own lawyer, but you trust mine? See? I can't even speak nicely to Sebastian anymore. Even in the moment I'm letting him go, I can't resist taking a dig at him. Feeling deflated, I softened my voice and said, "Forget it." "I agree." He grabbed the agreement and walked toward the door. "My assistant will deliver it tomorrow. You'd better sign it immediately. He's waited too long for this day. I think he'll even call his lawyers in the middle of the night to discuss whether I've set a trap for him." I shrugged and said, "Fine, whatever. The sooner, the better." He still looked at me suspiciously and added more conditions. "I hope that after you take the money, you won't live in Pineville anymore. We should all have our own lives, right?" I couldn't help but feel bitter inside. I pushed him out the door and shut it behind him, out of sight, out of mind. Sebastian's assistant was indeed well paid. When he handed me the agreement, he addressed me respectfully as a mess. "Lillian." Everyone in the company knew about my feud with Sebastian. Joyce even went out of her way to send him love-filled lunch boxes. Sebastian seemed to enjoy it, so he actually hired Joyce as my assistant just to annoy me. But she didn't last long and went back home. Sebastian then started the divorce proceedings. I never went back to the company, and few people called me a mess. Lillian anymore. The young man in front of me was the only one who did. I opened the agreement and signed it on the last night. MS. "Lillian, you can take another look." "No need. There's nothing left to see." I smiled and handed him the agreement, telling him to tell Mr. Sebastian that the Civil Affairs Bureau would be in a month, and he better not be late. Don't waste my last moments. Yes. The young man politely took his leave, and we walked out one after the other. Sebastian didn't want me to stay in Pineville, and I didn't want to stay here either. I wanted to return to my hometown. The journey was smooth, and I arrived at my destination. I stood on the soil of Springfield. Thinking about it, it had been nearly 5 years since I last returned. I went to the cemetery first. "Dad, Mom, Grandpa, and Grandma, I've come to see you." Sebastian was right. I was truly lonely. I leaned against the tombstone and sat down. My parents died in a car accident when I was young, and after I graduated from college, my grandparents passed away one after another. I had them buried close together because I thought it would be more convenient for me to pay my respects. I also bought a plot for myself nearby. First, I really miss you all, and second, I think this spot has good feng shui, haha. I didn't stay long. The early winter weather had started to get cold, and tiny snowflakes were falling, making my feet feel a bit chilly. All right, I'll head back now. We'll see each other soon, and then we'll talk properly. I'll definitely tell you all about what that jerk Sebastian has been up to these past years. I patted my clothes, chattering away, and turned away from the cemetery. It was just after school, and I passed by Springfield High and stopped there for a moment. The children in their school uniforms had smiles on their faces. School days were the happiest time of the year, even if it was just a short weekend break. I stood at the gate for a long time before finally stepping into the school. "Hey, what are you doing here?" The old man at the school gate stopped me. I hurriedly said, "The teacher is looking for a parent." "Sir, I'm really in a hurry." "The teacher will get upset if I'm late." Maybe it was because my eyes were red, or maybe it was because I acted convincingly, but the gatekeeper let me in. I exhaled deeply and strolled slowly around the school grounds. Students were sweeping the ground with brooms, and mischievous boys were making snowballs and stuffing them into girls' arms, who then chased them around with brooms. I smiled at them, and for a moment, it felt like I could see my younger self. And my younger Sebastian. I shook my head and walked toward the classroom building, following my memories to senior class 5. It was still on the first floor, and the classroom was empty. I gently turned the doorknob, and with a click, the door opened. I stepped inside, feeling as though I could catch glimpses of the past through the musty air. I counted the seats and sat down where I used to sit, burying my face in my arms. 1, 2, 3, this was my trick from school. As soon as I counted to 3, Sebastian would appear before me. I lifted my head, and the young boy with a clear expression stood by my desk, holding out his hand. "Lily, let's go home." The brightest sunset of the day bathed him in a golden glow. 1, 2, 3, I opened my eyes, and the dream shattered before me. I exhaled, dispelling the fleeting fantasy from my heart, and stood up to leave. Before leaving, I turned back one last time. In the silent room, the girl lifted her head and smiled, taking the boy's hand and saying, "Okay." A blink of an eye, and it vanished like a bubble. It was all gone, never to return. I stayed in Springfield for a month. Winter came quickly in Springfield, and when I stepped onto the soil of Pineville, I even felt a rare warmth. "Why did you take so long?" Sebastian's expression wasn't good. I yawned lazily, shot him a disdainful glance, and walked inside. "What's the matter? You got divorced and brought your lover here? You divorced here, so you'll remarry there, right?" Seeing Joyce standing behind him, timid and hesitant, I felt annoyed, and my words were sharp. "Speak properly. Joyce isn't feeling well today. I'll take her to the hospital later." I rubbed my hands together, feeling even more annoyed. "Oh, fine, then you take her to get checked out." "I'm not in a hurry. I'll wait." Sebastian reached out to pull me. "Hurry up, don't make this difficult." I stubbornly stood my ground. "You're forcing me? Don't you care about your reputation in public?" Joyce started crying behind him, whispering, "Don't fight, don't fight." I felt sick to my stomach. "Sebastian, if you hadn't treated me so badly, I would have married you right away. Now either knock me out and take me inside, or get out of here." Sebastian's face turned as red as a pig's liver. He glared at me angrily and dragged Joyce away. The anger in my chest wouldn't subside. I thought carefully, bought a baseball bat nearby, tested it to make sure it felt right, and immediately took a taxi to Joyce's place. I called a locksmith and the property management. "Who is the owner of this house?" The property management replied respectfully, "Mr. Sebastian." I smiled and showed him my marriage certificate. "This is our joint property. Please open the door for me." The locksmith opened the door skillfully, and I dismissed them before walking inside. Sebastian actually liked taking photos with her, even though he never smiled. After we graduated, Sebastian was always very busy, so we rarely took photos together. First, we slept back to back, then we slept in separate rooms, and later, we separated. I realized that our relationship had broken down because Sebastian started bringing different women back to his place. I walked around and lightly broke a purple jade ornament, which was my grandmother's favorite. I had bought it to give to her. Little did I know that life is unpredictable, and she didn't survive that winter. I wondered why I couldn't find it. It turned out Sebastian had taken it to please his lover. I no longer hesitated, swinging the stick in my hand with a loud thud, quickly smashing everything in the room to pieces. Perhaps I had hit too hard, as a steady drip began to fall to the ground. I looked up to wipe the blood from my forehead, then looked down to meet the shocked gaze of Joyce and the furious glare of Sebastian. "Lynn! Water! Juan! Ugh!" I pretended to vomit. "Don't call my name, hearing it makes me want to throw up." I tapped the baseball bat against Sebastian's chest and said slowly, "Tomorrow, we'll meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau." I finally got that out of my system. I didn't want to maintain this marriage for another day. "Lillian, I've really put up with you for a long time." Sebastian's forehead veins bulged as he shoved me hard against the wall. My nose started bleeding again, and I tilted my head back to force it out. "What's wrong with you?" Sebastian loosened his grip, and I stepped back a pace. "I'm furious because of you and your little lover." I slung the baseball bat over my shoulder and said to him, "Sebastian, I've put up with you for far too long. Let's get a divorce. You go your way, and I'll go mine. We'll never see each other again in this lifetime. Not even in the next lifetime. It hurts so much. It's unbearable." Having learned from the previous lesson, Sebastian came alone the next day. We didn't say a word and signed the papers immediately. As the seal was pressed down, we finally obtained the divorce certificate. Sebastian didn't utter a single word to me, turning away with a flourish and never looking back. I watched his back for a long time, suddenly recalling a winter night long ago when he had slipped a warm hot water bottle into my hands and said, "Lily, you go first. I'll watch you leave." Those warm hands and those fiery eyes had kept me from feeling the cold for many winter nights. I exhaled a puff of breath, wiped away my tears, and boarded the bus leaving Pineville. Sebastian, we should never meet again. I checked into a hospital and began receiving treatment half-heartedly. Bed 18. Why did you pull out the needle again? The one scolding me with her hands on her hips was a young intern nurse. She worked efficiently but scolded people without mercy. I shrunk my shoulders and obediently let her scold me. Do you not want to be treated? Say it! I rolled my eyes and said half-heartedly, it's too cold. Really, can you get me a smaller hot water bottle? The young nurse looked at me skeptically but still brought me a small, elegant hand warmer. Don't pull out the needle again, she bent down and reminded me, does it hurt? Looking into her eyes, I felt a rare pang of emotion. No one had asked me if it hurt in a long time. The people who cared about me were no longer in this world. It doesn't hurt, Zoe. You're so kind. Saying it didn't hurt was a lie. After half a month, my hand had been pricked so many times it had lost sensation. At night, the pain kept me awake, so I would walk around holding the stand. In the nurse's station, Zoe was alone, wiping away tears. I tapped her desk gently. What's wrong? Shoo. She looked around to make sure no one was there before asking me, why aren't you sleeping? I pointed to the stand and said, I can't sleep, so I'm just walking around. She looked at my face, reached out to touch my forehead, and asked worriedly, does it hurt? I was about to say no, but for some reason, I nodded instead. She beckoned me over, and I pushed open the nurse's station door to sit beside her. I ate a big piece of sweet, sticky bread and watched 5 episodes of a melodramatic romance TV show with her, using up a whole pack of tissues, until it was dawn and she finally urged me to go back to the ward. I reminded her, wait for me to watch it with you. I remember this part of the plot. You're not allowed to peek. Xiao Zhou smiled and said, okay, hurry up and go back to sleep. After watching 3 late-night TV dramas with Xiao Zhou, one night, I received a call from Sebastian. Where are you? I raised my eyebrows. What's it to you? You didn't even have the right to ask when we were married, so why are you asking now that we're divorced? He was clearly taken aback and hung up the phone abruptly. My good mood vanished instantly, and I angrily added him to my blacklist. Xiao Zhou was waiting beside me to watch TV and whispered, was that your family? I shook my head. I have no family. Everyone in my family is dead. Xiao Zhou pointed at the phone and asked, then who was that? I glanced at the screen and thought for a moment before saying, him? He's just a despicable person. A very despicable person. But just one phone call didn't cause much of a ripple in my life. I continued sleeping during the day, undergoing treatment, and wandering around at night. When Zoe was on duty, I'd watch TV shows with her. But annoying people don't just disappear. A week later, I received a text message from an unknown number. You blocked me? I rolled my eyes and blocked the number too. Sebastian had made some money over the years, and I didn't know who had spoiled him into thinking he'd stop until he got what he wanted. I finally managed to fall asleep, but he woke me up with a barrage of calls. Oh, right, he used to be a rich kid. Hello! I answered in a bad mood, my eyes still half closed. Why aren't you home? Sebastian's voice came through the phone. Ugh, I was getting impatient, but I forced myself to ask, what do you want? Which account should I transfer the money to? Any account is fine. Why are you calling me for such a trivial matter? Don't hang up. I held the phone closer and said, just spit it out. Why aren't you at home? He started repeating himself, but I suddenly had an idea and asked, are you at my place? I advise you to get out of there immediately. I've listed the house for sale, and someone might come to view it at any moment. Get out of there and don't block my way to making money. You want to sell it? His voice rose several notches. You want to sell this house? I suppressed my impatience and said, not selling it? Keep it for the next generation? Stop wasting my time and get out. Where are you? He asked, sounding serious. None of your business. I lost my patience, hung up, blocked him, and deleted everything, then couldn't sleep at all. I lay awake until dawn. In my mind, I cursed Sebastian a million times. No matter how angry I was, I still had to go to therapy with Zoe. In my hometown, it was inevitable to run into old acquaintances. Lily? I heard the voice and turned to look. It was Tiffany, my best friend from high school. Old friends meeting again always have to catch up. That day, with Zoe's permission, I finally had a little time to go out. I chose hot pot. How have you been? Tiffany asked cautiously. I smiled and said, it's okay. I have plenty of money, but not much time left. Her hand trembled as she picked up some food, staring at me in shock. I focused on putting a piece of meat into my mouth before noticing that she was crying, tears streaming down her face. Hey, what's wrong? I quickly pulled out 2 tissues to wipe her tears, feeling a bit flustered. What's wrong? I waved my hand. It's an incurable illness. Don't worry, I won't die anytime soon. I looked out the window and said, I want to die on a sunny day. Winter is too cold. Are you still with Xavier? Mentioning Xavier, her eyes dimmed slightly, and she murmured, yes. I didn't try to persuade her. Not everyone needs to figure everything out. As long as you're happy while you're alive, that's enough. Can I ask you a favor? I asked her as I stepped outside. Go ahead. Don't tell anyone you saw me. If you have time, come visit me more often. Maybe it was the cold wind, but her eyes welled up with tears. Okay. Does Sebastian know? No, we're divorced. He doesn't need to know. Tiffany fell silent, and we both stared ahead in silence. When we were in school, Sebastian and I were a very close couple, and Tiffany was just a tag-along chasing after Xavier. The north wind howled, and even though we had good times, they were fleeting and gone in an instant. Back in the ward, I was scolded by Zoe for not following the diet rules, and I obediently listened to her lecture, promising never to do it again. She didn't back down but instead grabbed a pair of scissors and tried to cut my hair. I held on tightly. We argued for 2 days. It was just a meal out. If we don't go again, isn't that enough? Why cut my hair? Zoe tried to reason with me, you're about to start chemotherapy, and chemotherapy will make your hair fall out. It's better if we cut it now. I pondered and asked, if I don't do chemotherapy, isn't that fine? Zoe flew into a rage. I smiled and tried to calm her down, all right, I'll think about it. She was about to say something else when a tall figure walked in and headed straight toward me. Who are you looking for? He didn't acknowledge her, just glared at me with a cold expression, as if trying to read some hidden scheme on my face. He's looking for me. Zoe, let go of my hair and let me go to work. She frowned, sizing up the man, then glanced at me and whispered, if there's anything, call me. I nodded and sent her out. Turning to Sebastian, I asked, aren't you spending New Year's with Joyce? Valentine's Day, Christmas, New Year's, Joyce always had some excuse to take Sebastian away. For a while, I even hated holidays, they made me feel even more lonely and abandoned. Later, I got used to it and thought being alone wasn't so bad. But now he's back to bothering me again. What's your new trick? My heart sank. Even if you get used to a sharp knife, it still hurts when it cuts open a wound. I sighed and said, yes, this is my new tactic. Don't fall for it. Go away. Come with me. He pretended to grab my hand, and before I could react, he pulled me a few steps forward. Let go of me. I emphasized my words and shook his hand off. We have nothing to do with each other now, do you understand? Why are you here? He let go of my hand and took a couple of steps back. Don't you dare use the excuse of being sick to take more money from me. You know we're already divorced. I took shallow breaths, feeling as though the blood in my heart had stopped flowing, leaving me numb. I didn't even want to say a word to him. I just pulled him toward the door. Get out! Get out of here! Take your 2 pennies and go find your little lover. Disappear from my sight. The last words were almost a scream. Sebastian clenched his teeth, straightened his collar, and slammed the door shut before walking out. Zoe opened the door with concern. Are you okay? I asked, my face pale. If I don't say the right words, can I avoid getting in for? No. Then I'm okay. Sebastian didn't show up again after that, and I spent another week in peace. Tiffany kept coming to see me, though we didn't say much, afraid that any word might touch on each other's pain, but overall, things were still manageable. I always hoped she could sneak me some junk food, but it always ended with Zoe discovering it and confiscating it. I was speechless. The Lunar New Year was getting closer day by day. Zoe whispered to me, "It's getting colder and colder." I laughed, the 7th and 8th days of the 12th lunar month, freezing cold. I breathed out steam while counting the time, making sure to return to the ward on time even when I was outside, or else Zoe would scold me again. As I turned around, I bumped into someone, and I felt dizzy and stepped back to apologize. I'm sorry. I rubbed my forehead and tried to walk past him, but he grabbed my arm. Lillian! Sebastian's face appeared in front of me. If it weren't so cold, I would have slapped him. What are you doing? I glared at him without flinching. He looked far from his usual polished self, with stubble on his face and a haggard expression. What? We've only been divorced for a few days, and you've already gone bankrupt? Your little mistress dumped you? I mocked him sarcastically, but strangely, he didn't argue back. He just stood there staring at me. I shivered, gave him a cold look, and walked into the house. Lily. I jumped back 3 meters. What are you doing? Sebastian hadn't called me that in a long time, and the tone was so unfamiliar it made my heart race. A hint of embarrassment flashed in his eyes. Why didn't you tell me you were sick? My mind was filled with questions. What does it have to do with you? We both fell silent. We at least have the bond of marriage. I snorted coldly and said, don't mention marriage. The biggest regret of my life is having feelings for you. Let's stick to what we agreed from the start. I'll leave Pineville, and you go live your life without bothering me. I turned and walked away, but Sebastian didn't follow. He just stayed behind. I don't know if it's because I've been seeing Sebastian so often, but I couldn't sleep well at night. Looking at the calendar, I saw that Zoe was on duty today, so I decided to go out while pushing the 4 stand. As soon as I opened the door, I was startled by the figure curled up on the bench to my left. I walked around and saw Sebastian's face in the moonlight. I kicked him awake without hesitation. What are you doing here? He woke up groggily but didn't seem upset. He just looked at me and asked, where are you going? Are you feeling unwell? My throat tightened, and I snapped, you disappeared from my sight, and now I feel fine everywhere. He touched his face and said, I won't leave. I finally found you. What do you want from me? He didn't respond, and I didn't want to stand there arguing with him anymore. Get out of here, or I'll report you for occupying public resources. With that, I hurried over to watch TV with Zoe. During the commercial break, Zoe leaned in and said, that guy was standing outside your door for a long time today, just looking in without coming in. I guessed it was when I was sleeping in the afternoon. I thought he'd left after I shooed him away, but who knew he'd come back? Don't mind him. He'll leave soon. At home, there was warmth, and at work, things were going well. But here, there were only cold words. Sebastian, someone who cares so much about himself, wouldn't stay long. He asked us to look up your medical records. I rolled my eyes and didn't say anything. I didn't give it to him, but others might have. He said he was your husband. I panicked immediately. This was a misunderstanding. We need to clarify. We're exes. Ex-husband and wife. I don't even know if he came to see me out of concern or because he wants a share of my inheritance. Zoe immediately grew wary, glancing behind me suspiciously. What are you doing? I turned around and nearly had a heart attack. What are you doing, following me like that? Sebastian said with a dark expression, it's not about the money. I sighed deeply and looked up at the ceiling. If it's not about money, then what else could it be? I could only drag him back to the ward, sit cross-legged on the bed, and talk to him. Fine, you win. What do you need me to do? How much money do you want? How much do you need? Sebastian silently placed my hand under the blanket, reached out, and held the four-tube, smiling at me. Sleep for a while? Don't do this. I waved my hands at him. All right, just write up the transfer agreement, I'll sign it, and then you can leave. Is that okay? Sebastian gritted his teeth and glared at me. Lillian, your mouth will be the death of me one day. I snorted coldly. Sorry, but I might die before you do. It was raining cats and dogs, and Sebastian was crying. I'm not dead yet, and you're already pretending to be compassionate? I waved my hand in front of his face, feeling even more frustrated. Lily, I regret it. Don't scare me, okay? Sebastian, with red eyes, reached out and hooked my fingers. After all these years, he still knows how to comfort me. I'm the softest part of him. Back in school, whenever he made me angry, he'd sit in front of me, lower his head, and gently tug my fingers while speaking softly, Lily, 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 don't be angry. Lily is the best. I love Lily the most. Please don't be angry, okay? Get out of here. I was so angry I stood up suddenly and kicked him. I hated how he pretended to be 18 to win my favor, and after I forgave him, he'd do hurtful things with those same 18-year-old eyes. I hated myself even more for always being so soft-hearted. Sebastian stood up as if his heart was broken. I was standing outside the door. If you want me, just call me, okay? Get out! Another second, and I'd have cried. How could I not miss him? But even if I did, I'd never see the 18-year-old Sebastian again. The 28-year-old Sebastian, I dared not even think about him. Zoe was going home for the new year. She kindly reminded me, take your medicine properly, get your 4-drip, don't pull out the needle, and don't run around. I obediently repeated after her, take my medicine properly, get my 4-drip, won't pull out the needle, won't run around. Zoe was satisfied. I leaned on the table and asked her, can you prescribe more painkillers? It hurts so much at night. Zoe shook her head and leaned closer, saying, why don't you let him come in? Let him keep you company. It's the new year, after all. I shook my head and said no. It's because he's at the door. Just thinking about it makes me feel so sad. My heart hurts, and my body hurts even more. On New Year's Eve, Sebastian wasn't waiting outside my hospital room, and I didn't care. I took a walk around the hospital and then ran back to my room to watch TV. The firecrackers outside were going off loudly, and I stood by the window to catch some of the festive spirit. Bang bang. Lily, Happy New Year. Sebastian blinked at me, a smile on his lips, holding a cake in his hands. In the night, only the candle on the cake flickered in his eyes. Lily, make a wish. He eagerly pushed the cake toward me. I leaned against the door, not moving, looking at him with a complicated expression. Sebastian, you're so boring. I blew out the candle and said, 2 years ago on New Year's Eve, I said I was lonely spending the holiday alone and wanted you to keep me company. You came back, but at 11 p.m. You said you had to leave because there was an important project and your partner's boss wasn't celebrating the new year. You had to work overtime. What overtime? I heard everything. Joyce said she was scared and wanted you to stay with her. I crossed my arms across my chest and leaned against the doorframe, saying, the night you left, I spent New Year's alone. That winter felt so cold, and New Year's lost all meaning. From that day on, I stopped looking forward to New Year's. You forgot, but I didn't. I stopped looking forward to New Year's long ago. I no longer have a new year either. Sebastian's hands were trembling, as if he were searching for an excuse to cover up, but I didn't bother to listen. I know she was pregnant back then. You should have gone to be with her. The thing I regret most is not realizing it back then and still hoping you would change your mind. If I had woken up then, maybe we could have made New Year's wishes now. I want to live to be 100 years old. Can you make that happen for me? I slammed the door shut, not knowing if it hit his face or not. I hoped it had. Tiffany came to see me and cautiously pointed outside, asking, is that Sebastian outside? I corrected her sternly, no, that's just a nuisance. Tiffany sighed helplessly, are you sure you want to cut it? Just do it. Zoe is too busy. Don't take up her time. You do it for me. I'm still a bit reluctant. Tiffany silently began to cut my hair, bidding farewell to my once beautiful locks. I looked at the mirror and thought, I'm really a patient now, a terminal patient. I started to have trouble moving around because my body hurt. I asked Zoe to find me a caregiver. I said, someone who's quick and efficient. I have money. Zoe kept her word and found me a caregiver the next day, but Sebastian stopped her before she could even enter the door. I'll take care of you. His movements were gentle, but his tone was firm. I was in too much pain to speak, but I managed to squeeze out a word, get out. I'd heard it too many times, I was immune to it now. I felt even more blocked inside. How could I have forgotten that Sebastian was my natural enemy, always going against me? Once I calmed down a bit, I threw everything at him and told him to leave. He knelt down in front of me and said, Lily, let's go back to Pineville for treatment, okay? I tilted my head and asked him, Sebastian, do you even understand what late stage means? My treatment is just prolonging my life. I don't want to be treated. And besides, I don't want to go back to Pineville. There are so many memories there that I hate. How could that be? There's definitely a chance for improvement. I pushed his hand away and said, what's the point of getting better? My family is all dead. I might as well go join them. Why are you always stopping me from reuniting with my family? Lily, we're also a family, don't you remember? Sebastian, let's get you checked out tomorrow. I think you're the one who needs treatment. We're getting divorced. I'll make you a banner to hang over your head so you'll remember, okay? I took a deep breath and asked, do you have a special fondness for this sick girl? The girl you liked at first was your assistant, right? She got sick and went to the hospital for N4, and you started seeing her. Now Joyce is always running to the hospital. I suddenly understood. You just like sick beauties. Sebastian shook his head, his face pale. Your fetish is pretty weird. You should just give it up. Looking at his face now makes me feel sick. I'm warning you, don't get in my way of finding a caregiver. I'll die tomorrow and not leave you a penny. I'll take it out and throw it out the window, you won't get a dime. Sebastian, with red eyes, brought a basin and placed it under me, saying, do whatever you want. He patted my back and cried, making me feel even more disgusted. I vomited everything I had eaten that night. Sebastian didn't stop the nurse from entering the room, but sometimes he would help the nurse I had hired with her work. I turned a blind eye, pretending to indulge his strange fetish. As long as he didn't show his face in front of me, it was fine. On the Lantern Festival, the nurse took the day off, and I gladly agreed. After all, I loved her little grandson's baby voice. Fireworks were still going off outside the window, and I leaned against the window to watch. Lily, it's cold by the window. I turned to look at Sebastian. He hadn't left. He'd been staying here for over a month, sleeping on the bench outside. Zoe tried to chase him away at first, but later she whispered to me, he always warms up liquid for you when you're asleep. I feel bad chasing him away. Sebastian, shall we go for a walk? The Lantern Festival is different. When we were young, on this day during the new year, Sebastian would sneak out of the house, take my hand, and lead me to the snack street behind the school, where he would use his New Year's money to treat me to something delicious. The Sebastian family was influential, so he always had to sneak out of various gatherings, dressed in a little suit like a prince, appearing before me. This was the day I looked forward to most all year. I once asked him, what if your family doesn't approve of us being together? Sebastian laughed heartily, hugged me gently, and said, Lily, then we'll elope, just like we are now. Later, the C family indeed wanted him to marry a girl of equal status, not an orphan with no family. He firmly refused and, on a certain Lantern Festival, took me away from the city. I will always remember that bumpy train ride, with me curled up in his arms. I had no family left, Sebastian. He held me tightly and said, Lily, let's form a new family. I'll be your family. That year, the warmth of his hands holding mine, and the excitement in my heart that felt like it was about to burst out of my throat, I've never forgotten it. The vows echo in my ears, but now everything has changed. We did so much for each other, how did we end up like this? I can't understand it, so I've stopped trying to figure it out. I want that. I pointed to a grilled sausage and said to Sebastian. Lily. He looked hesitant. I pouted and walked over to buy it myself. All right, I'll buy it for you. Stay here and wait for me. It's smoky over there, don't go. I took a satisfied bite, finally feeling that youthful sensation again. Then I directed Sebastian to buy me some candied hawthorn, fish balls, and an ice bowl. I couldn't hold it all myself, so I reluctantly let Sebastian hold it for me, taking a bite here and there. Lily, he suddenly spoke up. Shut up. I glanced at him and said, if you're trying to annoy me, just go back. Lily, eat a little less. His voice was a bit choked up. I looked up and could only see his reddened eyes. Why are you crying? Are you just standing here waiting for me to die? I sighed, pushed him away, and walked off a good distance. Lily, I said the wrong thing. I said the wrong thing. Sebastian hurried after me and whispered, eat a little more, please? No. I'm not in a good mood, so I can't let him be happy. This isn't good for your health. Do you want me to die early? Sebastian lowered his eyes and saw that I was about to leave, so he reached out and tugged at my sleeve. Lily, do you want some rice noodles? The place on the back street. That was a place we used to go to every year, and I loved everything there. It might have been the temptation of the food, or the group of young students rushing over behind us, or more likely, it was Sebastian, dressed in a suit and looking down, overlapping with a certain moment in time from years ago. I nodded and said okay. The noodle shop had changed owners. The previous owner was a chubby older man, but now it was run by a young couple. They seemed friendlier, but I still wanted the old owner. The food tasted different too, with many new innovations. I didn't eat much, and Sebastian didn't touch his chopsticks either. When it was time to pay, the young couple called us over and asked, can we ask why? Is the food not good? We noticed you didn't eat much. I waved my hand and said, no, it's just that I liked it better before. The food, and the people. Things change, and you can't hold on to them. We walked back side by side, and fireworks began to light up the sky again. I looked at Sebastian's face and thought, those who are loved have privileges. Make a wish while the fireworks are going off. I stopped, sniffed, and looked at him. Hurry up. Sebastian bent down, leaned close to my cheek, and looked at me seriously. If heaven can hear, I wish I could go back to the past. I tugged at the corner of my mouth and said to him, heaven heard you, and it said, wishes don't come true when you say them out loud. Heaven can't hear us, because I've already made that wish 1,000 times. There's no clock that runs backward, and there's no going back. The atmosphere was too good today, so I spoke up. Joyce's child, it wasn't me who turned her down. Sebastian's lips turned downward. You made her my assistant, and I was indeed angry, but you're the one with no shame. The child wasn't even formed yet, I wouldn't go that far. Her methods were too cruel, and you actually believed her. I grew angrier as I spoke and didn't let him inside. You're truly so despicable. I slammed the door shut, hoping it would crush him. Soon I could barely get out of bed. The doctor asked if I wanted surgery, saying it had some risks but could extend my life by a few months if successful. That's not exactly what he said, I paraphrased it. I said no, but Sebastian said yes. I mocked him, you don't get to decide. You don't even have the right to sign my death certificate. He started crying again, and I didn't want to look at him. We're already over. He couldn't make decisions for me. No one in this world could make decisions for me anymore. I never let Sebastian in. He slept on a chair outside the door for a long time. Zoe came to persuade me to let him in. I was shocked. You're on my side, aren't you? Zoe smiled and said, yes, but you were secretly covering him with a blanket, weren't you? Whoever loses the city first loses the city. I still won't let him in. I told Zoe, this is the only thing I'm holding on to. At the end of life, if there's any hope left, it's to be a little more true to oneself. I can't forgive him, and that makes me feel guilty toward myself. Sebastian can't come in, so he started sending me flowers. I love white roses, and he orders a big bouquet for me every day. I fiddled with them for a while, then smiled and said to Tiffany, "When you come to bury me, bring these flowers too. I don't really like chrysanthemums." Tiffany took a while to agree. Sebastian switched to pink roses the next day. I thought, well, of course. Tiffany is just a little liar. He's an enemy spy. But I didn't say anything. Pink roses are still to my liking. In the middle of the night, I couldn't sleep well and kept seeing a blurry figure sitting by my bed. I thought, maybe my body is so weak, or maybe my deceased family members have come to take me away. Until that person held my hand and spoke, "Lily, I was wrong." "Oh, it's Sebastian." Sebastian's tears were as cold as his hands, yet such a cold-hearted person had such a burning body temperature. I closed my eyes and fell back asleep. Telling him to leave was too exhausting, my sleep was more important. He came to my bedside every day, always talking nonsense in the middle of the night. "Lily, you don't want me anymore." I don't." "Lily, you've lost so much weight." I'm sick." "Lily, will you forgive me? I've made everyone else leave. From now on, I'll come home on time every day and tell you I love you, just like before." My nose stung, and I opened my eyes to look at him. "Sebastian, do you know that I've been indulging you, so you've been testing me all along?" He fell silent. "Lily, I was wrong." "Where did you go wrong?" "You just got bored and wanted to find someone new. You just felt annoyed that the person who was always by your side was suddenly gone, and then you felt guilty because she was going to die soon." "No. That's not it." Sebastian looked the same at 18 as he did at 28, with his lips trembling and tears falling down his cheeks. "Sebastian, you stopped loving me long ago. Don't say such self-deceptive things." I forced myself to sit up straight and said, "Even if I were to get better right now and go home with you, you'd soon grow tired of this life. You just like the thrill of something new. If we were to live together for 5 or 10 years, you'd forget all of this and there'd be another young woman knocking on our door." "I won't." His voice was too soft for me to hear clearly. "You'll bring them back to me and ask me if I want a divorce? They'll say they're afraid of you and will leave, they'll say they're sad and you'll abandon me to comfort them, they'll say they're pregnant or had an abortion, and you'll automatically cast me as the villain and blame me." "Lily." I interrupted him. "It's okay, really. I never wanted to tie you down. I just feared you couldn't see your own heart. How could you mistake guilt for love?" Sebastian covered his face and cried, like an abandoned puppy. He hugged my waist, his tears soaking my clothes. He kept repeating, I love you, Lily. I love you, Lily." Liar. I've seen how Sebastian loves me. Why is he still trying to deceive me? I lifted my head and thought, I won't shed another tear for Sebastian, not a single one. I didn't have much time left. Every time I opened my eyes, there was a bouquet of pink roses by the bedside. I no longer refused Sebastian from entering my ward, but I also didn't look at him. When Zoe came to give me an injection, she would secretly wipe away tears. I felt guilty inside. I thought, I'm still letting this young child down. She's just starting her internship and has to face this farewell. I squeezed her hand and said, "Here's a gift for you." "What?" "I'll tell you if you don't cry." The little girl pouts. "Who's crying?" "I'm not." I laugh. "This gift is something I'll only tell you after I'm gone." Sebastian helps me wipe my body, and I don't struggle, just stare at him. "You've gotten a bit ugly." He panics, stops what he's doing, and asks, "Where do you think I look bad?" "I'll go fix it." I shook my head. "Don't go. You can't turn back time overnight." I said, "I still prefer clean, fresh-faced young men." Sebastian forced a smile and gently covered me with the blanket. "Sebastian, do you no longer like me because I'm no longer 18? I was really curious, but Sebastian didn't answer. He turned his back to me and sobbed, his back shaking violently, as if he was about to faint and cry for a long time. That night, he held my foretube and touched my cheek, saying, "Lily has always been beautiful, the most beautiful." Liar, then why do you love someone else? I ignored him, turned over, and fell asleep. After asking Zoe for more painkillers for the nth time, the weather finally warmed up briefly. After a heavy snowfall, Tiffany came in with some fruit and asked me, "Can you take me out for a walk? The weather looks nice outside." She looked around and asked, "Where's Sebastian?" I said, "He went to buy flowers." Tiffany smiled, covered me with a thick blanket, and pushed me out the door. As we passed the nurse's station, I saw Zoe. I smiled and waved at her, but she lowered her head and started crying. I asked Tiffany to go get me another coat and waited there for her. "The TV show isn't finished yet," Zoe said with red eyes. I laughed. 300 episodes. I've already watched 298 episodes with you. There are still 2 episodes left. She was telling me she wanted me to come back. Just 2 more episodes. You can watch them yourself. Make sure you finish them. I told her, I have to go to the new world. I knew what this was, the so-called last moments of life. Zoe tried to say something else, but I waved at her and said, "Zoe, make sure you stay happy." Such a kind-hearted child. She should live the rest of her life well. Tiffany pushed me down the stairs and stopped at a spot bathed in warm sunlight. The early spring sun was warm, and I asked lazily, "Tiffany, did you tell Sebastian I was here?" Tiffany paused, bent down, and asked me, "Do you want some water?" I smiled and said, "It's okay, it's okay. Xavier is getting married, isn't he?" She didn't stay silent this time. What do you think?" Her gaze drifted far away, and her voice sounded like it was carried by the wind. I didn't know. I nodded and didn't say anything else. "Abeo," I suddenly spoke, using her nickname. Tiffany's body stiffened, and her eyes welled up with tears. "Abeo, do you remember when we were in school, what our wishes were?" Tiffany tugged at the corner of her mouth and thought for a moment before saying, "I wanted to be a baker. Back then, we loved desserts the most and hoped to make the best desserts so that everyone who tasted them would be happy." Such a simple wish. Tiffany was raised by her mother alone. Similar people tend to seek comfort in each other, and we tried to get closer to one another. The cold night snow would be melted by the warm sunlight, and Sebastian was the hottest ray of light in my life. "Lily! Lily! Lily!" I turned my head and saw Sebastian holding a bouquet of pink roses at the window, calling my name. He looked very anxious, half his body leaning out of the window. I watched him from afar and thought, this is enough, just one glance, that's enough. "Let's go back." Tiffany reached out to push me away. I blocked her with my hand and smiled mischievously. "Abeo, this is your punishment for secretly telling Sebastian. You have to send me home alone." Tiffany's tears welled up, and I raised my hand to wipe them away. "Abeo, look, if you ask me what I want to see most, it's this very moment." I pointed at Sebastian and whispered, "He cares about me, takes care of me, worries about me." He was so worried he was sweating because he couldn't find me. From the first time I met Sebastian until today, it's exactly half of my life. I leaned back to make myself more comfortable. Half. Such a long time. The good and the bad, all came from him, the most sincere emotions, the most vicious words, the feelings I can't let go of. I closed my eyes and choked out, "Abeo, how did we end up? Falling for a man? The dreams we had at the beginning, the simplest wishes, the easiest joys, how did we forget them all? Abeo," I reached out to hold her wrist and whispered, "Abeo, I wish we lived in a fairy tale where someone would come to save us when we faced hardships. But we can't, Abeo, we can't." My tears fell onto my palm, splashing into a pool of water. "Abeo, who can save us? Only we can save ourselves. Abeo, I hope you're happy. You were always the one who deserved happiness the most. We were always meant to be happy." Tiffany's lips trembled, and tears kept falling onto my hands. She kept saying, "Lily, don't go. Lily, don't go." We've all grown up and rarely say such things anymore. The last thing we should do on the path of growth is to speak like children. But between life and death, everything can be forgiven. I watched her cry but had no strength to wipe away her tears. Abeo, go do what you want to do. No matter what, I hope you do what you truly want to do, even if it means staying by Xavier's side and guarding a love that has no future. You must. Be happy. Be happy for me. Lily, wake up. Is there anything you want to say to Sebastian? Tiffany sobbed beside me. My consciousness began to fade, and my soul felt hollow. I could only shake my head stiffly. What could I say? When we were in love, we said enough sweet words. When we weren't loved, we said enough words to try to hold on. When our hearts were dead, we said so many cruel words. What else could I say to him? Everything I could say to him in this life had already been said. It turned out that when we reached the end, we had nothing left to say. Abeo, I forced a smile at her. It's a sunny day. It's my favorite kind of sunny day, warm and bright. Even on the road to the underworld, it won't be cold. Lily! Someone was running toward me, shouting hoarsely. I looked up and saw Sebastian, holding a bouquet of pink roses in his arms. He stumbled toward me, as if he had used up all his strength. In a daze, I seemed to see that spring again, when a young boy in a white and blue school uniform ran over, panting, holding a bouquet of wildflowers he had hurriedly picked by the roadside. He blushed but still looked straight at me and said, Lily, can you be my girlfriend? I promise. I'll always be good to you. I just smiled, took the flowers, and said, all right, deal. You better not go back on your word. Sebastian, you better not. Go back on your word. You're the one who went back on your word. That tear we promised would never fall trickled down my cheek. Spring returned to the earth, but I never woke up. Sebastian's side story. You don't want to see me, do you? The tombstone doesn't speak, and the person in the photo just smiles, but I miss her standing in front of me, scolding me. Even if it was just picking up a stick and smashing the house to pieces. Unfortunately, that's not possible. You're so heartless, not leaving me a single word. You didn't even let me see you one last time, just leaving behind a grave you had already bought for yourself. Zoe was crying so hard. She said she'd never watch the last 2 episodes of the TV show again. She promised you they'd watch them together. The child was crying so fiercely her eyes were swollen. I fiddled with the bouquet of roses and said, the money you gave her, she donated it all. Your taste has always been good. Zoe is a good child. She said she was always meant to heal and save lives, and this money should go to those who need it more. Besides loving me, you've always chosen the right people. Tiffany broke up with Xavier, and Xavier never married her. He just stays outside the small shop she bought every day, but Tiffany doesn't see him. I think Lily must have told Tiffany something, and she wouldn't tell me. Lily, why haven't you come to me in my dreams even once? I still reached out to touch her cold photo. Of course, you should blame me. I opened a bottle of wine for myself. Lily, I blame myself too. At first, it was just new and exciting. But how did we end up here, unable to go back? Lily, I never wanted to divorce you. You probably don't believe me, but I didn't want to divorce you. I thought you'd never leave. You were always behind me. Whenever I turned around, you were there. How could you leave? It was my greed. Lily, you won't believe me no matter what I say. It's okay. If you won't come to see me, I'll go to see you. I've forgotten my wish. It was to have a home with you. Lily, after you left, I really had no one else. You must think I'm ridiculous, and I think I'm ridiculous too. How did we end up here, only to realize what I truly wanted? You must think Tiffany told me where you were, right? No, I was looking for you. Lily, I was looking for you. I looked for you for so long. You weren't at home or at the office. I was so panicked. I couldn't find you. Later, I found you, but you were lying in the hospital. I'd rather you had lied to me, scolded me, or hit me than be really sick. I wiped away my tears. You're probably going to scold me again for crying like a cat over a dead mouse. I thought about it and said, the house we bought, I bought it back. That's the house with all our memories, how could we sell it to someone else? The shop on the back street of that school, I took it over. That was your favorite place, from now on. I'll take care of it. You'll definitely scold me, but it's okay, I'd rather be scolded by you in my dreams. Suddenly, I remembered the pastries Tiffany made, so I quickly took them out and arranged them neatly. Tiffany insisted I give this to you. I almost forgot. She said it was her first attempt, and she promised to give it to you. Try it. If it's not good, go scold her in her dreams. I sighed and interrupted her. Stop being so disgusting. Just tell him quickly. If he doesn't come home tomorrow, I'll break down your door and smash your house. Do you think a broken doorbell can stop me? I'll remember that I covered my eyes thinking you wouldn't want to. All right, then I'll come find you. Epilogue. Tiffany thought long and hard before finally burying Sebastian's ashes beside Lillian. It's getting cold, let's go home early. Xavier stood beside her, holding an umbrella and speaking softly. I thought Sebastian would find his way on his own. Xavier's eyes darkened, the memories were too heavy for him to let go. Then why did you do that in the first place? Xavier lowered his head, unable to see clearly. Tiffany pulled her clothes closer and turned to leave. I'll take you back to the store. Tiffany pointed to the figure standing under the tree and said, No need, my husband is waiting for me. You should go back early, it's getting cold. Memories are too heavy, who could ever let go? If we can't see clearly, then we were meant to miss each other.